So welcome to my first actual video. It's not nearly as entertaining as I'd like it to be, but I ended up having some problems with my Lexus, and I kind of wanted to go through what problems I had, what I was kind of thinking was going wrong, what was actually wrong, what I did to fix it, and some things that I modified and some problems that I ended up having with it. So I took a lot of videos. It was very, very informational more than anything, but if you have a Lexus LS400, I definitely recommend skimming through the video at least and looking to see what it's all about, but I hope you enjoy. The entire life of owning this car, it's had some weird transmission problems where it would shift at the wrong times and it would shift really, really weird. Like if I were hammering on it when the car is warm, it would shift up instead of shift down, and it would really, really bog out. I really wasn't sure what was wrong. I just didn't really think much of it. I thought it was just an old car, and I kind of looked into getting a shift kit for it, thinking that possibly could fix something, and it was just how Lexuses were, and they weren't meant to be driven aggressively like that. But upon doing some more research, I found out why my overdrive light on my dash was flashing on and off while I was driving. It didn't do it very often, but every once in a while it would. And I found out that means there's a code inside my transmission. And so to actually read these codes inside the car, I had to put a jumper wire between two connectors that was right underneath my dash. And to do that, I just grabbed a paper clip and I shoved them inside the connections of TE1 and E1. And here's a little diagram for that. And I turned the key to on. And on my dash, the overdrive light will start flashing at me at a certain sequence. So like, if it flashes like 1, 2, 3, 4, pause, 1, 2, then that's code 42. And in my case, I got code 63, and that was number 2 solenoid or something that was under my transmission. And I'd have to take off the pan and figure out what is wrong with it from there. I haven't lifted up the car or anything. But before I order any solenoids that actually go inside the transmission, I'm going to lift up the car and I'm going to look at the wiring going into it and see if there's any weird connections or just bad connections in general, because I found a couple of those already on the car and fixed a couple of problems. So I'm going to check the connections underneath my car and see what all is wrong with it, or if there's anything wrong with it, and see if I actually have to order that solenoid or not. It's been a couple days since I recorded the Lexus, but we contacted a couple of shops and nobody wanted to touch it because of foreign luxury. I think it's kind of a Montana problem more than anything. They just don't want to work on stuff like that. So I ordered up the parts and they will be in soon, and I'll be doing all the work by myself, I guess with my dad as well. Hopefully it turns out well. I'll keep bringing up updates, and I guess let's just see what happens. It really shouldn't be too bad of a job. At least from the pictures and all the stuff on the forums, like the job shouldn't be too difficult at all. The worst part is probably gonna be just removing the pan and making a mess everywhere. After that, I think it's gonna be pretty smooth sailing. All right, this weekend I'm gonna be starting on the Lexus. I got her jacked up at least in the front. Tonight I'm gonna drain all the oil and let it just drip overnight because I don't really feel like getting absolutely covered. But I'm gonna drain all the transmission fluid. Not the oil, the transmission fluid, and then I'll probably really get into the project tomorrow. I got all my parts in after a couple of struggles, but she's lifted up as far as I can go with the tools that I have, but I'm pretty excited. She's gonna be so much better. I'll make a little bit of an in-depth video talking about like how I did it, what I needed to do, maybe some advice going into it, and how much of a difference the shift kit and the solenoids actually made. Hopefully everything goes to plan and it's not too difficult of a job. The instructions, and from what I've seen on forums, that doesn't seem too terribly bad at all. So I think it's gonna turn out actually really good. And I'm expecting a night and day difference once I'm done with this thing. I'm super, super stoked. All right, I got the plug popped. Now it's just time to let her dribble like an old man. It'll be here for a while. So I'm finally underneath the car and I'm taking a look at it. These are the 2 solenoids that I'm gonna have to be replacing. It's not gonna be too hard to take them out, but the wiring and the plastics, I've heard, are very, very brittle when actually taking them apart, so I'm gonna have to be very, very gentle. I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to wire it all up inside of here because I don't think the wiring harnesses are exactly the same. I'm gonna have to do some mismatching and go across there. Then I'm gonna have to look at the paper some more for the shift kit. and figure out what all I have to take off to actually get to the valve body. And then that is the transmission filter right there. I'll be replacing that as well, just for good measure, since I'm already underneath of here. So here are the two solenoids that I was talking about underneath. You can see they look very, very similar. The only thing that's a little bit different is this wiring right here. I'm not sure exactly how that's all going to work out and how I'm going to wire that together. Maybe I'll be able to just plug it right in, but I don't know. I'll have to look underneath of it again. But pretty simple install. Instead of two different brackets, this one's just a single. I guess we'll figure it out once I get there, but first we need to get into the shift kit and get behind all of it. And this is the transmission filter that I was referring to. Looks pretty similar, or identical to it, but we'll be putting that in. Should be very, very easy, just bolt right in, but that'll just be for maintenance, and while I'm underneath of there, might as well replace it. All right, taking a look at all these papers for the shift kit. First, you gotta identify which valve body is actually yours. There's the type 1, type 2, type 3, and type 4. From what I can see, it looks like we are type 4. Mine is a 1991 Lexus LS400, and mine is for type 4. Okay, with those out of the way, we don't need to look at this yet. First, we need to take everything apart. These instructions are pretty clear. They kind of have explanation on which bolts you need to take out, what you need to unplug first, what you need to get out of the way to actually get to all of it. So this is for the valve body type 1, and since we're on type 4, it's going to be a little bit different. So just take your time and be careful with what bolts you're taking off and noting what you're actually taking off so you know what to do when you're putting it back together. That's about all I can say. I'll try to give as much detail as I can when I'm actually underneath of there, but that's what I got for now. I know I'm going into kind of extreme detail and kind of dumbing it down big time when I'm going into this, but I want like kind of everybody to be able to look at it and kind of get an understanding for it, not just people that already have a bunch of previous experience. But this kind of just sat in there. This screw went right through the middle of both of them, and then on both sides the wires came in, and I just pinched them and pulled them off, and it was super easy. But these just kind of, I just twisted it to the side like that and pulled them out. They came out pretty easy. It wasn't too hard. Now I just need to save these. I promise you, you're gonna wanna bag and label everything just so you don't lose anything and keep track of everything, or else you're just gonna be screwed. All right, I haven't done a whole lot yet, but I'm kind of updating what I did so far. So I took out the shift solenoids that went right here. These plugged into each side. I took out the bolt. Then I just bent this little thing back a little bit, and I just let that hang. I also unplugged it from these two solenoids here. And in step 3, I believe, it's telling me to remove the TV cable. And what I had to do in my transmission was I grabbed this solenoid right here, and I rolled it over to the side like that, and you kind of twist this forward, or was it back? One of the two. Yeah, you twist it back that way right there, and you're able to kind of just slide this out. It's just the cable. It's kind of just like any other cable, throttle cable, anything. It came out pretty easy, and it needs to do that so I can access everything else. And then I'm just gonna push that back for now. Whatever, I'll come back to it later. But that's what I got so far. Also, I removed the filter. That was super easy. It was like 3 bolts and it just kind of fell out. Also note that there's gonna be a lot of transmission fluid falling out of these, so don't get it all over your face like I did. That wasn't nice. So the TV cable I was referring to, that's for step 2. That was pretty easy, just take that out. And then for step 3 is saying to note and remove all the tubes. I didn't see any tubes looking anything like that. Again, mine is going to be different and it varies between every transmission, but mine didn't have any tubes, so I didn't remove anything. Now I'm going to be moving on to step 4, remove the valve body, bolts, and the valve body. So I need to look at A and B, the valve body bolts, and I'm going to be removing A and B everywhere that you see them. I'm not sure what it's going to look like underneath of there, but I'll just take a look and go for it. So something I'm going to be doing just to keep track of everything is I'm going to be taking a lot of pictures to try and make sure that I put the correct size bolt in the right places. So these 5 are all the same length, but I don't want to actually mix this up with the longer bolts. So I'm going to be taking a picture here, and this shorter bolt ended up going right here. I'm going to take a picture of that and take note of that, and all the longer ones ended up going right here, so I'm not too worried about it. If they're all the same length like that except for the select few, then I want to make sure I note that. All right, so I got the valve body out. I haven't separated it yet. I believe these two separate right here, and all this stuff fell out as I took it out. And I'm pretty sure these went here somewhere. I think there's instructions in here on how to exactly put it back together, which
It'd be really bad if there wasn't. That would concern me, but I think I'm okay right now. We're okay. It's just a lot of reading and a lot of understanding, and I can't really explain everything considering that I'm doing this for the first time as well. So I'm just going to be trying to show what I did as I go along and do the best I can. All right, so I got pretty much everything installed into here. I got whatever this new piece is, and then there's a new piece down here, at least down here anyways. There's still a lot of springs for this. I don't know exactly what I'm gonna be doing there yet, but I got the valve body adjusted anyways. The only thing I don't know is this. So this goes into this top right section, unless I completely took out the wrong piece, but that was the only piece I saw. And I'm supposed to replace this with basically this. I mean, there's a couple pieces in there that go onto this, but I don't understand how it fits in there. Like, the diameter of these are completely different, and it's not gonna fill that hole at all. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on here and what I'm doing wrong. For now, it's actually going pretty smoothly. I'm pretty happy about it. Just because I got excited, I installed the 2 shift solenoids just right there before I even put it on the car, but it's going pretty decent. I don't know what these are called, maybe accumulators, I'm pretty sure. Anyways, there's type A and there's type B. And in the type A, it has a deep pocket on the end with, I'm assuming, a spacer and a spring already in it, and it'll fall out of the end. And in type B, there's one attached inside of it, which I was kind of struggling, kind of has it in bolt there, but I was kind of struggling figuring out which one it was, and I was kind of mismatching them, but mine is the one that is attached. So let me take this out here. Like this does not come out. No matter how hard I try, this spring is not coming out. So with this, on the one that is attached, that means I'm type B. And with this, I need to cut the spring on all of them at the end. I'm assuming until it's like flush with this, flush. And then I just need to install this set of springs instead of this set over here. It came with 2 different sets, and I need to install these ones right here. I'm not sure exactly how it's gonna go back into the car, but this is what I understand so far. This is I'm getting a hang of it. It's just a little bit difficult. The only thing I'm slightly worried about is when actually putting the full valve body back in. I'm not, my pictures weren't good, and I didn't really get good track of which bolts went where, like the long versus short. So I got a couple of them, but I don't know. We'll have to figure it out when we get there. Okay, so there's 5 different drill bit sizes that this kit came with. All of them are right here, right there. Sorry if this is kind of wobbly and weird to look at. Anyways, so there's 5 different drill bits, and you don't end up using all of them, but there's 3 different holes that you can drill. For the 3/4 shift, it's 0.055 for everything, which I did already drill out, and that is right, let me 1 second, let me flip this over. And that is this hole right here. That hole right there, I'll be drilling out 0.055, which I already did. And then the 1/2 shift, I can either do truck or hot rod. With reliability in mind, I'm doing truck, and I know it's going to have a huge difference regardless of what I do, just because drilling out these holes is going to make a lot more flow, supposedly. At least this is what it says right here. It'll say, like, the transmission will come alive just with small changes. Wow, I'm making these papers really dirty. Anyways, and so I did 0.076, and that was right there. That was definitely the biggest difference that I made in this whole thing, because this hole was really, really small beforehand, and I'm pretty excited about it considering that that's a 1/2 shift, so that'll make it slap way harder. And then the 2/3 shift, there's 0.062 and 0.093. I did the truck, like I said before, and that is this hole right here. I didn't do, wait, no, it is not this hole. It is this hole right here. It didn't make much of a difference when I drilled it out, like it was already just about that size, but when I got it, I drilled it out, I got it all drilled out, and it's good to go. So I'm pretty excited to see what difference all of this makes, but I was kind of nervous about this, thinking that I actually was drilling into the valve body, not just the sheet that goes in between the upper and lower pieces. But yep, got that piece already drilled out and we're good to go. And I got these put together. I haven't snipped the springs yet, but everything else is put in, and all the retainer clips are in, which are these small little pieces here. They go in each Let's see if I can find another one. There's another one right there. Anyways, there's a lot of these all over the place, and you need to make sure that they are in and in the correct position. Otherwise, I'm sure they will cause problems. I don't know what problems they'll cause, but I'm sure there's going to be a lot of problems caused. Everything in here is super detailed. I don't know the word for it, but very important that you don't mess something up. Everything has a purpose. But yeah, one thing that I did find that helped a lot with this was a little bit of a magnet. I was struggling to get out some of these pieces and struggling to get the retainer clips out without making a huge mess. So just shoving these into the end right here, I was able to suck up the retainer clip, and then putting it in the side, I was able to take out the full valve. So this helped a lot. I found that very useful. But other than that, it's going pretty well. Also, these balls here, make sure that they're still in the instructions. It shows where they all go. So make sure you put them all in the correct place and the correct size ball in the correct space. So don't lose those. Don't lose those at all. All right, I got everything put back together. I just haven't torqued down these bolts yet. I put assembly lube in between all the plates between the upper and lower valve body. And now it's just kind of putting it together and tightening everything up. So in case you didn't get very good pictures of actually installing the valve body into the car, since it's kind of difficult while you're underneath it there, if you don't know where the lengths of these bolts go, here I have a manual, and go ahead and pause the video. It has how many foot pounds to put it into and where each bolt goes and the length. Also, one thing that I recommend getting is I just went to Harbor Freight and spent like 20 bucks on a so I could torque spec everything down. Why can't I remember what this is called? Anyways, so I could torque everything down, and I torqued everything down on this side, and it should be good to go. I wasn't sure what to torque these actual solenoids down to, so I just used the same torque and then went past it a little bit more, but it should be good to go. We got everything lined up and orientated the way we want it to. Now it's time to just go actually put it in. We'll see how bad it's actually going to be. All right, we're underneath and we got everything buttoned up. Sorry if it's a little bit dark, but it's going pretty well so far. We got everything torqued down. There's some light, and we got those tucked up in there as well. Luckily, they just plugged straight in, and we didn't have to splice any wiring, so that was nice. All right, transmission pan is in. Everything's torqued to spec. We're all good to go. Now it's time to fill her up with ATF. We've got a serious problem. Car's in reverse. It's in reverse. The back wheels are spinning forward. Oh no. After a very small amount of research, I was in full panic attack on why my car could be going in only forward gears. They said something about the manual shift not connecting to the manual valve. And there was a valve towards the end of us putting together the valve body that was just going freely in there. And there's a cog that actually shifts between gears, and we're wondering if that was what actually controls what gear it goes into, and if those two are not connected correctly, then that would be causing it to go drive all the time. So we're going to tear it back apart and look at it, and I really hope that's what it is. And if it is, then that would take a lot off my shoulders, but we'll see. This is just speculation right now, but as of right now, my car only has forward gears. So all right, so far what we can see when we're installing the valve body, this is the cog that I was talking about that would attach to that valve and move it back and forth, kind of deciding which gear is in. Is that one right there. And we didn't focus on that at all. And when we were inside of the valve body, where is it at? Right here. This right here, this valve right here, we had it shoved all the way in, and it is not attached to that cog at all. And we just installed it like that. So that would make sense on why it would only go forward and have no reverse or any other gear. So we're thinking if we're able to, hopefully we don't have to pull the valve body completely out, but we can take this valve, pull it back, and put it back into the cog correctly. And we're hoping that'll solve our problems. Cross our fingers, but I'm thinking that's what's going on. So to kind of put the paper to actually what's going on, this is the valve that I was talking about. That moves. It moves right in there. And that is supposed to be, this cog
or this piece of metal right here is supposed to be in between those two grooves. And we just flat out didn't do it at all. I mean, it's a really stupid mistake, but you know, it's kind of bound to happen when you're doing things like this and when you've never done it before. So we're hoping that we can...
That's what happened when I moved the gear shifter, and you can tell it was supposed to be latched on.
Yep. You see that? So it's just pushing it. And then as he goes back, it just stays down there. So it's supposed to stay attached to that as it's going through the gears and actually shift it into the different gears. So we're hoping once we're able to get that back attached, then it should solve all our problems. That's also hoping that we didn't do anything else wrong, but we're hoping we'll find that out when we actually go for a test drive. So this is our problem we got figured out. Hopefully we don't have to take the valve body all the way out. We can just loosen a couple bolts and then slip it in there. All right, everything's put back in, and now it's just time to go for a test drive. Reverse does work, we know that, so at least we did that part of our job correctly. All right, I installed the shift kit. It worked. I did it correctly. I fixed my problem with the shifting, and I was able to take it on a test drive that night. And right off the bat, it was amazing. It shifted so hard. Between first and second, my tires squeaked. It felt like a whole nother car, and I absolutely loved it. But I ended up having problems that I think was non-related to the actual shift kit itself. So before when the transmission was cold, it shifted amazing, and I did like 4 runs with it. By the time I got the transmission got up to temperature, I ended up having some shifting problems. And I think this was because of something else, not because of the shift kit. So when I started hammering on it, and between first and second and third and fourth, it couldn't decide what gear it was in. So it'd go back and forth constant and like shifting back and forth really hard. And I had to let off, so it quit doing that. And it was doing that consistently every single time. And I was like, what the hell? What is going on? I can't figure it out. I don't know what it is. I adjusted the TV cable thinking that could be causing problems, and it just wasn't it. So kind of came to the conclusion that that night that it's either the fluid that I put in it or some other problem going on, and the shift solenoids are faulty or something like that. And so by the end of the night, I kind of just let it go. The next day we took it out for another test drive. When it was cold, it shifted amazing. It did great. And once it got hot, it started having the same exact problems. And we contacted Transco, and they said it was not the shift kit. It was something else, possibly the solenoids or some imbalance in pressures causing it to shift weird. And by the end of that drive, that second drive, it started to piss and fluid everywhere, all over the place, and it was seeping in between the engine and the transmission. So some sort of seal went completely out, and we kind of came to 2 different conclusions with that. Either the oil pump went completely out, kaboosh, like the seal in that is gone, and that's what was causing the weird pressures beforehand and making it go weird, because the transmission fluid will get thinner as it heats up, and that could have caused a bunch of different problems if the oil pump is not pumping the correct way and causing something to not get enough pressure or get too little, and it ended up shifting weird. The other thing, I could have just blown my rear main seal, which it really sucks, but I think that was something that was already going out, and it's just a problem I'm gonna have to fix. I'm either gonna tear it apart and try to fix it from there, or another option is we already found a transmission on eBay for $900, and I'm going to buy that one and stick it in, and also put the shift kit in as well, because it was not a shift kit problem at all, and I know it's not. And so I think I'm going to be okay in that terms anyways. I think I did everything correct in that way, and I honestly completely recommend to anybody that wants to do a shift kit in their car. It was absolutely phenomenal. So that's kind of my 2 cents on it. I had already transmission problems already going into it, and I think it would have lasted a lot longer if I didn't put the Transgo shift kit into it. But that Transgo shift kit kind of just like sent it over, and that was kind of just pushed it over its last leg, and that was the end of it. And now she's down for a while, so we'll get that figured out, and in the next video I might end up sending off the fluid off to a tester to see if anything did go wrong mechanically inside of it, and there was some sort of shavings or what could be going wrong. for just curiosity's sake and YouTube's sake, just cause, to see if the Transgo shift kit possibly did do anything, or if my transmission already had problems going on before that we could see in the fluid, or what it was. But in the next video, on the Lexus anyways, I'll be hopefully putting in a new transmission or fixing the problem that I have, and yeah, should be good to go. But it's a block in the road, but you play the game and you win stupid prizes, I guess. That's just what happens when you start modifying your car in any sort of way. So I think it went really, really well, considering, especially for it being my first time. But nonetheless, I'll hear some clips on the car actually shifting. I have 2 of them. The first 2 will be of the car shifting really, really well. And in the third one that I'm going to show is going to be it shifting back and forth, up and down. And you can kind of hear it, and you'll probably have to turn your volume up, but get right into it. Let's go. It's about the right time though. Just wait, it's gonna hit like almost 80, then I'll do it. Now. Wow. So you can see in those first 2 videos, it shifted so much harder. I don't have any before videos because I don't know why I didn't take any. That was kind of stupid. But you could see how much harder it shifted. I don't think you could hear how well like the tires squeaked between first and second gear, but you could definitely feel it in person. And then on camera, you could see the camera lunge forward between each shift. And you could just hear it click, just slap right into place. So that was super, super exciting. That got me super excited. But in this third video I'm going to show here is when it started having problems. And you'll have to pay attention to the speedometer. Don't pay attention to the tachometer because my tachometer is not working. But my speedometer will be going boom, 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 boom. And you can hear it in the engine as well. And that's when I started having problems, and that's when I started noticing it all. But nonetheless, Transgo, great shift kit. Super, super good. I ended up going with the medium holes to drill. I didn't go hot rod, so I'm glad I didn't, because I think hot rod would have actually annoyed me more than anything because it shifts so hard even at low speeds. So I think it went really, really well. I'm super happy about it. Here's the video. Thank you for watching.
Okay, you ready? Full throttle, don't let off of it.